Dehinosmin yatha dehe.
Dehinosmin
Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tatha dehantara praptir. Dhirastatra namohyati. We'll chant again. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tatha dehantara praptir. Dhirastatra namohyati. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tatha dehantara praptir. Dhirastatra namohyati. So Mayank, synonyms will Mayank will help me with reading the English word, the English equivalent, and I'll read the Sanskrit. So let us start. Dehinaha. Mayank,
Prabhuji, have you shared the screen?
I've shared the screen. Screen is there. Everyone is able to
I
see.
can't see, Prabhuji. I can't see.
How many of you are not able to see the screen? Dia, you're able to see the screen? Yeah. So, okay, Dia, can you read out the English aspect, the English words, English equivalents?
Oh, okay, Prabhuji, I can't see your screen.
No problem. Yeah, she will do it. Dia will read it out. So let us start. Dehinaha
Of the embodied
asmin
in this
yatha
as
dehe
in the body,
kaumaram
boyhood,
yauvanam
youth,
chara
old age,
tatha
similarly,
dehantara
transference of the body,
praptihi
achievement,
dhiraha
the sober,
tatra
thereupon,
na
never
muhyati.
deluded.
So I'll read the translation by myself. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So this is the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we are reading from second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, verse number 13. So this describes that how body changes. When we were 1 month old, we had a different body. When now we are, some of us are 13, 14 years. Some of us after few years, maybe 30, 40 years, we'll turn 50. So our body is constantly changing. You can see when we were young, we had a different hand. Now our hand is different. So similarly, our body is constantly changing, but the personality, the soul within this body was also referred as Atma. This body is referred as Deha. This Atma is not changing. The Atma is always the same. Atma is not changing, only the body is changing. So this is the meaning of the shloka. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. So one who's a very sober person, was a very intelligent person, one who's very knowledgeable person, he will not get bewildered by such change. He will not get deluded by such change. So we'll read the next shloka, and this we will read from the second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. This will be the second chapter, 14th verse. And again, Dia will help us in reading the English aspect. And let us start reading this. We are on asitis.com, wherein we are seeing all the, and you can also refer prabhupadbooks.com. So here you will find everything as it is, the original 1972 version of Prabhupada. So this is the version of Bhagavad-Gita written by Prabhupada. Now we are reading from second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, verse number 14. So kindly chant along with me. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna shuka dukkada. Shitoshna shuka dukkada. Agamapaino anityas. Agamapaino anityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna shuka dukkada. Agamopaino anityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna shuka dukkada. Agamapaino nityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. So Dia will chant. Dia will help the English translation. So you have logged in as Satish Mishra. So you want to do it? Yes, you can do it.
Yes.
So let us. I'll start. Matra
Sensuous.
sparshaha
Perception.
tu
Only.
kaunteya
O son of Kunti.
shita
Winter.
ushna
Summer.
sukha
Happiness.
dukkada
Giving pain.
agama
Appearing.
apayinaha
Disappearing.
anityaha
Non-permanent.
tan
All of them.
titikshava
Just try to tolerate.
bharata
O descent of the Bharata dynasty.
O descendant of Bharata dynasty. Okay. So now translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So translation: O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their appearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Now, the example is that here Prabhupada is very clearly describing this process. Now, the happiness and distress, both happiness and sorrow, they are not permanent. So here Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that both happiness and distress, they are not permanent and they appear like seasons and they go away. They arise from sense perception. Like, for example, how am I able to perceive my the heat or cold from the neurons which are on the surface of my skin? So they are all material. So this, and we all know summer season is only for hardly few months, and again winter season is also for few months. So after summer season, rainy season comes. So it is it is nothing remains permanent. It is not that throughout the year there's only summer. No, it's not that. So similarly, happiness is also temporary, momentarily it will be there, and sorrow is also momentary. So an intelligent person, a knowledgeable person, he should not get disturbed when there is sorrow, and he should not be overjoyful when there is a lot of disturbance. So this shloka talks about this. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna shukadukkada agamo paino anityas tams titikshasva bharata. So this is from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We are moving to the next verse. We are going to read, we'll be reading the 20th verse of Bhagavad Gita. This is also a very important. We are only covering the important chapter, the important shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, and we will understand what Lord Krishna, because this is the gist, this is the summary of Bhagavad Gita. So if possible, Advaita, if possible, you can help me with the Sanskrit translation. Otherwise, anyone can volunteer. So let us start reading this. Okay. Now let us start reading this. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. So let us read the synonyms. Advaita. So Sanskrit word I'll read. Na
Never
jayate
takes birth,
mriyate
never dies,
va
either
kadachit
at any time, past, present, or future.
na
Never
ayam
this
bhutva
came into being,
bhavita
will come to be,
va
or
na
not,
bhuyaha
or has come to be,
ajaha
unborn,
nityaha
eternal,
shashvataha
permanent,
ayam
this,
puranaha
the oldest,
na
never
hanyate
is killed,
hanyamane
being killed
sharire.
by the body.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: for the soul there is never birth or nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So this is the nature of the soul. So this second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the most important because this is the gist of entire Bhagavad Gita. And here it talks of the nature of the soul. What is the nature of the soul? The soul is, there is never birth to the soul, there is never any death to the soul, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He's unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He's not slain when the body is slain. So when the body is slain, when we say body is slain, say for example, if there is an accident and a person dies, what is the meaning of that? This body is like a house. And the Atma, the soul, is the occupant of this house. He's staying in this body, he's staying in this house. Imagine if there is an accident, there's a fire breakage, the house gets destroyed or something happens, there's a flood or so. So what the occupier of the house or what will the occupant do? He'll find another house or he will go move out of the house. So similarly, when there is something called death, what is the meaning of death? Death means that soul no longer lives in this body. It no longer, like the occupant of that house, he no longer stays in the same house. He might go to a new house. So this is the meaning of that the soul is never, the soul never dies. So let us proceed further. This is the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and now we are moving on to the 21st verse. So 21st verse is also a very important one. Let us see this, and I would request Aditya, or if Aditya is not able to unmute himself, then Diya will help us. Okay, let us read this. Text number 21 of second chapter. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. So Aditya, you're there?
Yes, Parvati.
So let us read. Veda
In knowledge,
avinashinam
indestructible,
nityam
always
yaha
one who,
enam
this soul,
ajam
unborn,
avyayam
immutable,
katham
how
saha
he,
purushaha
person,
partha
O Partha Arjuna,
kam
whom
ghatayati
hurts,
hanti
kills,
kam.
whom.
So thank you. We'll read the translation. Translation and interpreted by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation is like this. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So this nature of, again, the nature of the soul is described over here, that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal. Eternal means it always exists. And immutable. What do you say immutable? You cannot cut into pieces. Okay, it's always there. It is always a integral entity. Then kill anyone or cause anyone to kill. So only this gross body, it appears that the gross body is being killed. Here it clearly says that the soul never ceases to exist. So this is the 21st verse of second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Let us move to a next verse, which even more, it goes even more detail, and it explains. This is the 22nd verse of second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and let us read this verse. This time I would request Atmika, if you can unmute yourself, please
Yes, Prabhuji.
So let us start. Vashamsi jinani yatha vihaya. Vashamsi, please mute yourself. Vashamsi jinani yatha vihaya. Navani grahanati naro parani. Tatha sharirani vihaya jinani. Anyani samyati navani dehi. Vashamsi jinani yatha vihaya. Navani grahanati naro parani. Tatha sharirani vihaya jinani. Anyani samyati navani dehi. Vashamsi jinani yatha vihaya. Navani grahanati naro parani. Tatha sharirani vihaya jinani. Anyani samyati navani dehi. So I would request now Atmika to read the Sanskrit equivalent. So if you can make somehow the background, little, if you can make the background a little less noticeable, that would be very nice. So let us start. Vashamshi
Garments,
Hirnani
old and worn out,
Yatha
as it is,
Vihaya
giving up,
Navani
new garments,
Grahanati
does accept
Naraha
a man,
Aparani
other,
Tatha
in the same way,
Sharirani
bodies,
Vihaya
giving up,
Jinani
old and useless,
Anyani
different,
Samyati
verily accepts,
Navani
new sex,
Dehi.
the embodied.
Thank you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So here, as we wear new clothes every day, so similarly, what happens at the moment of death? The body changes, the soul, the Atma, who's residing in this. Like, for example, if you are looking at me, you're only looking at the flesh and bone. Like, there's one layer of skin, below that there's flesh, below that there's bone, and that is the composition of this physical body. But I am not just this physical body. I am soul, I am Atma, I am personality within this body. So what happens at the moment of death is that as a person, changes, he puts on new clothes by removing old and useless clothes. So similarly, the Atma changes from an old body and weak or useless body to a newer body. So that process of leaving the old useless body is called as death, and entering into a new body which is new, which is still developing in the mother's womb, is called as birth. So here Lord Krishna is very beautifully explaining the entire process, who we are, what our true identity is, what is the nature of the soul. Everything, this great transcendental science is explained by Lord Shri Krishna. So you all please go through these verses. These are the most basic verses. These are the most important verses which will help us understand our own existence. So let us proceed further, and then we will quickly chant the second verse second chapter's verse number 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. Na chainam kledayantapo, na shoshati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. Na chainam kledayantapo, na shoshati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. Na chainam kledayantapo, na shoshati marutaha. So let us, I want Mayank or
Yes,
Advaita.
Prabhu.
Okay, Mayank, yes. You can please chant. You can read the English part. Na
Never.
enam
Unto this soul
chindanti
can cut into pieces
shastrani
all weapon.
na
Never.
enam
Unto this soul
dahati
burns
pavakaha
fire.
na
Never.
cha
Also
enam
unto this soul
kledayanti
moisten
apaha
water.
na
Never.
shoshayati
Rise.
marutaha.
Wind.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So here again, the nature of the soul, and Lord Krishna is explaining further about the nature of the soul, that the soul cannot be cut by any weapon. He cannot be burned by fire, moistened in water, or dried, or nor withered by the wind. So this is the nature of the soul explained by Lord Shri Krishna. Now here primarily this is the original version of Bhagavad-Gita, and this is the 1972 version of Bhagavad-Gita, which Prabhupada had written, which you are able to see on the screen. I always appreciate everyone to refer to this version of 1972 version of Bhagavad-Gita. And please, as much as possible, you will read the